The dream always started the same way. 8 shadows swaying in the wind. 8 pairs of eyes staring at me through the smoke. 8 pairs of lips whispering a name that was not mine. I jolted awake on the train, my shirt soaked through with cold sweat. My hand instinctively reached for the photograph in my vest pocket. Emma and Sarah, my wife and daughter. 3 years gone now, taken by the fever that swept through our town like a vengeful angel. I traced my thumb over their faded faces, feeling the familiar ache spread through my chest. The old Navajo woman sitting across from me had been watching. Her dark eyes studied me with an intensity that made my skin crawl. She leaned forward slightly, her weathered face catching the harsh morning light streaming through the dusty window. "You carry death with you," she said in accented English. "I can smell it, like old blood on stone." I met her gaze but said nothing. What could I say? That she was right? That every night for the past 3 years I had been haunted by faces I had never seen, by voices speaking words I could not understand? She nodded slowly, as if I had answered. "The valley knows you are coming. The dead are waiting." The train's whistle screamed, cutting through the tension. I looked away, focusing instead on the landscape rolling past. Arizona territory stretched out in endless browns and golds, a harsh and unforgiving land that matched the landscape of my soul. San Rafael Valley. That was where the letter had said to go. My uncle Silas had left me his ranch, a man I barely remembered from my childhood, a man who had vanished into the West 30 years ago and never looked back. Now he was dead, and somehow, inexplicably, he had left everything to me. The train began to slow. Through the window, I could see the skeletal remains of what had once been a town, San Rafael. More ghost than settlement now. Perhaps 50 souls remained, most of them too old or too poor to leave. Weathered buildings leaned against each other like drunks seeking support. Dust devils danced through empty streets. The station was little more than a platform and a sign. As I stepped down, my boots hit sun-baked earth that cracked like old leather. The heat pressed down like a physical weight. In the distance, mountains rose like broken teeth against a sky too blue to be real. "Mr. Hayes?" I turned to find an old man approaching. He was perhaps 60, with silver hair and eyes that had seen too much. His suit was well made but worn, the clothes of a man who had once known better days. "Tobias Cole," he said, extending a hand. "I handled your uncle's legal affairs." His grip was firm despite his age. We stood there in the heat, 2 strangers bound by the death of a man neither of us had truly known. "Your Uncle Silas was a complicated man," Tobias said as he led me toward a waiting buggy. "He came here 25 years ago, bought 200 acres in the valley. Kept to himself mostly. The Apache respected him, which is rare for a white man in these parts." "How did he die?" I asked. Tobias's jaw tightened. "Heart gave out," they said. "Found him in his barn 3 months back. But folks around here talk, Mr. Hayes. They say things. Best not to listen." He handed me a key ring and a thick envelope. "The ranch is 5 miles north. Follow the creek bed. You will know it when you see it." "You are not coming with me?" Something flickered across his face. Fear? Regret? "I have business in town. But Mr. Hayes, before you go—" He paused, choosing his words carefully. "Do not open that envelope until you see the ranch. Your uncle's orders." He was very specific about that. The envelope was heavy in my hands, sealed with red wax. I nodded and climbed into the buggy. As I drove away, I passed 8 wooden crosses standing beside the road. They were crude things, weathered by wind and sun, but someone had taken care to plant wildflowers at their base. "What are those?" I called back to Tobias. He had already turned away, but his voice carried on the wind. "Memorials. 8 Apache girls. Vanished 6 months ago. The tribe thinks they are dead." "Thinks? No bodies, Mr. Hayes. Just gone." The words followed me as I drove north, the buggy wheels cutting through red dust that rose like smoke. The landscape was beautiful in its harshness. Scrub brush and wild grass, ancient rock formations carved by wind and time, and always, always, the mountains watching. The ranch appeared suddenly, as if the land itself had been hiding it. A cluster of buildings huddled in a shallow valley where a creek, now mostly dry, cut through the earth. The main house was adobe and timber, its roof sagging in places. The barn stood dark and silent. Fence posts leaned at drunken angles, wire rusted and broken. This was my inheritance, a dying ranch in a dying valley in a territory that had not yet decided if it wanted to be civilized. I tied the horse and approached the house slowly. The front door hung crooked on its hinges. Inside, dust covered everything like a shroud. Furniture sat where it had been left, as if Silas had simply walked out one day and never returned. The main room was sparse, a table, 4 chairs, a cold fireplace, and there, in the center of the table, 8 tin cups arranged in a perfect circle. I moved closer. Each cup contained a small piece of paper. With trembling hands, I unfolded the first one, a name written in careful script, Nasha. The second, Halona, Kaya, Lomasi, Nita, Shima, Aita, Diani. 8 names, 8 cups, 8 crosses on the road. My skin prickled. I turned slowly, taking in the room with new eyes. On the mantel above the fireplace, I found a journal left open as if waiting to be read. The handwriting was shaky, the words of a man writing in pain or fear. "Forgive me, Jacob. I broke my promise to your father. My father, Thomas Hayes, dead by his own hand when I was 10 years old. My mother had said only that he was sick, that the war had broken something inside him. We never spoke of it again." What promise had my father made to Silas? I remembered the envelope Tobias had given me, the wax seal cracked under my thumb. Inside, a hand-drawn map of the ranch. In the center of the barn, someone had drawn a large red X. Beneath it, a note in the same shaky handwriting. "Jacob, if you are reading this, I am dead. Go to the barn. Save them. Trust no one but yourself. Silas." Save them. Save who? The sun was setting and painting the valley in shades of orange and red. I lit an oil lamp and walked toward the barn, my shadow stretching long behind me. The wind had picked up, whistling through gaps in the wood, carrying with it a sound that might have been wind or might have been something else, crying. The barn door resisted at first, swollen from disuse. When it finally gave way, the smell hit me like a fist, rot and decay and something else. Something organic and wrong, urine, sweat, blood. I raised the lamp high. The light caught them slowly, revealing piece by piece what my mind struggled to accept. 8 ropes hanging from the rafters, 8 pairs of feet dangling in the air, bare and pale, toes pointed toward the earth in a grotesque ballet, 8 young women suspended between life and death. My hands shook so badly I nearly dropped the lamp. The light swung wildly, casting their shadows against the walls like some nightmare puppet show. Their faces were swollen, lips blue, eyes half closed. Some were still, others twitched slightly, bodies fighting against the ropes, even in unconsciousness. Then I heard it again. That sound. Not wind, a moan, soft and desperate. "Please." The word was barely a whisper, but it shattered my paralysis. I set the lamp down and drew my knife. The blade gleamed in the firelight as I ran to the first body. She was the oldest, I would later learn. Nasha, 24 years old with long black hair that fell past her shoulders. Her skin was cold when I wrapped my arms around her legs, lifting to take the pressure off the rope. The knife cut through the hemp in one stroke. She was heavier than I expected, dead weight collapsing into my arms. I lowered her to the straw-covered floor as gently as I could. Her chest barely moved. I pressed my hands to her sternum and began compressions. 1, 2, 3. The rhythm came back to me from the war. I had done this before, tried to pull men back from the edge. Sometimes it worked. Often it did not. 10 compressions. 20. 30. I tilted her head back and breathed into her mouth. Her lips were cold as ice. Again and again. On the fourth breath, she convulsed. Black water erupted from her mouth. She coughed violently, her body curling into itself as she gasped for air. "You are alive," I whispered, more to myself than to her. "You are alive." But there were 7 more. I cut down the second girl, Kaya, who was lighter, younger, 18 perhaps. When the rope released, she grabbed at my shirt with surprising strength. Her eyes fluttered open, unfocused, and wild with terror. "Silas," she whispered. The word came out as a croak. "Silas is dead," I said, gently lowering her down. "My name is Jacob. I am his nephew. I am going to save you." I moved faster now, cutting rope after rope. My arms burned, my back screamed, but I could not stop, would not stop. The third girl, Halona, gasped awake the moment she hit the ground. The fourth, Lomasi, fought me even in her half-conscious state, her fists striking weakly at my chest. The fifth, Nita, made no sound at all, her dark eyes open and staring at nothing. The sixth, Shima, was smiling. Even near death she smiled. I could not understand it. The seventh, Aita, was so light I thought at first she was already gone, but when I felt her neck, a faint pulse fluttered like a trapped bird. The eighth and youngest, Diani, fell wrong. The rope had been cut, but her weight pulled her down faster than I could catch her. Her head struck the barn floor with a sickening crack. Blood began to pool beneath her. "No, no, no." I pressed my hands to the wound, feeling warm blood seep between my fingers. "Stay with me. Please stay with me." I dragged them outside one by one, laying them in a row under the stars. The moon had risen, full and bright, turning the valley silver. 8 bodies lay before me, some breathing steadily now, others struggling, one bleeding. I knelt among them, covered in blood and rope fiber, and for the first time since Emma and Sarah died, I prayed. "If you are up there," I whispered to the vast, indifferent sky, "if you can hear me, show me what to do. I do not know if I can save them all, but I will try. I swear to you I will try." The wind answered with a howl that sounded almost human. I was about to stand, to run for water and bandages, when I heard it. The crack of a rifle shot splitting the night. The bullet missed my head by inches, slamming into the barn wall behind me. Wood exploded in a shower of splinters. I dove to the ground, rolling toward the nearest cover. Another shot. This one, closer. "Stay away from them, Hayes." The voice came from the darkness beyond the lamplight. I pulled my revolver from its holster, my heart hammering against my ribs. A figure on horseback emerged from the shadows. He was tall, wearing a long coat and wide-brimmed hat. In the moonlight, I could not see his face clearly, but something about his silhouette made my blood run cold. He sat on that horse exactly the way I sat on mine. His shoulders were the same width as my shoulders. Even the way he held his rifle was familiar. "Who are you?" I shouted. He urged his horse forward a few steps, close enough now that the lamplight caught his face. It was like looking into a mirror, the same angular features, the same nose, broken once and healed crooked, even the same scar above the left eyebrow. We could have been brothers, twins. "Stay away from them," he said again. His voice was wrong, though, colder, harder. "This is not your fight." "They were being hanged," I said, my gun trained on his chest. "What was I supposed to do?" "You were supposed to let them die." The casual cruelty in those words hit me like a physical blow. "Who are you?" He smiled then, a terrible smile. "Who am I? I am the man who has been waiting for you, Jacob Hayes. I am the man who will destroy everything you try to build, and I am the reason those girls are still here." Before I could respond, before I could demand answers, he wheeled his horse around. I fired twice, but the shots went wide in the darkness. He galloped away, his laughter echoing across the valley like the cry of some predatory bird. I stood there shaking, my gun still pointed at empty air. Behind me, I heard coughing. I turned to find 6 of the 8 girls stirring. Nasha had pushed herself up on one elbow, her eyes, dark and fierce, locked onto mine. "You," she said in accented English. "Who you?" "Jacob Hayes. Silas was my uncle. I found you in the barn and I cut you down." She studied me for a long moment, her gaze moving from my face to the gun in my hand to the darkness where the rider had vanished. "That man," she said, he the one who hang us." "He looked like me." "Yes." She coughed again, her hand going to her throat where the rope had left angry red burns. "Like you, but not you. We see his eyes dead inside." I holstered my gun and knelt beside her. "I need to get you all inside, get you water, treat your wounds. Can you walk?" Nasha nodded slowly. "I can. Others maybe not." Together, we began the slow process of moving the 8 girls into the house. Some could walk with support, others I had to carry. Diane, the youngest, remained unconscious, blood still seeping from the wound on her head. I made a makeshift bandage from my shirt, praying it would be enough. Inside, I started a fire and heated water. I gave them sips from tin cups, watching their throats work as they swallowed. Some cried. Some sat in silence. Nasha never took her eyes off me, watching, evaluating, deciding if I was a threat or a savior. As the night wore on, as I tended to wounds and tried to make them comfortable, I found myself thinking about the man who looked like me. The man who had hanged 8 innocent girls and left them to die. The man who had been waiting for me. How did he know my name? How did he know I would come? And why did he want them dead? I thought about the 8 cups on the table, the 8 crosses by the road, the 8 names written on paper. Silas had known. He had tried to warn me. "Save them," he had written. But save them from what? As if reading my thoughts, Nasha spoke from across the room. Her voice was stronger now, fed by anger. "You want know why?" she said. "Why we here? Why someone try kill us?" "Yes." "Because we run. Run from our tribe. Chief Neil, he our father. He say we must marry old warriors. We say no, so we run." Another girl, Halona, the one who spoke the best English, added, "Silas helped us. He say he teach us to live like white women, read, write, be free. He good man." "What happened to Silas?" I asked, though I already feared the answer. "He die," Nasha said flatly. 3 months ago. Then man come. Man who look like you. He say he Silas' friend. He say we can stay, work the land." "But he lied," Halona finished. 3 days ago he come back, with 2 others. They tie us, hang us in barn. Say we bait. Bait? The word sent ice through my veins. Bait for what? Nasha's eyes were hard as flint. For you. The fire crackled in the silence that followed. Outside, the wind had died. The valley held its breath. I thought about Tobias in town, about the way he had looked at me with something like pity, about the Navajo woman on the train who had smelled death on me, about 8 crosses marking 8 graves for girls who were not actually dead. This was not an inheritance. This was a trap, and I had walked right into it. "Your father," Nasha said suddenly. "Silas' brother. What he like?" The question caught me off guard. "He died when I was young. I barely remember him." "Silas talk about him. Say your father good man. Say your father make him promise something." She paused, her gaze boring into me. "Say your father die because of promise he could not keep." My mouth went dry. What promise? But before she could answer, we heard them. Horses. Many horses. The thunder of hooves shaking the earth like drums of war. I ran to the window and looked out into the moonlit valley. 40 riders approached in a long line, their silhouettes stark against the silver landscape. They carried torches that flickered like angry stars. Even from a distance, I could see the war paint on their faces, the weapons in their hands. Apache warriors, come for their daughters, come for revenge. Behind me, all 8 girls had gone silent. Even wounded, even terrified, they knew what this meant. Nasha rose unsteadily to her feet. She walked to my side and looked out the window. "My father," she said quietly. "Chief Neol. Will he listen? Can I explain?" She looked at me. He's Looked at me, and in her eyes I saw something that made my heart sink. "Apache law simple," she said. "Blood for blood, life for life. We belong him. You take us. Now he take you." The riders were closer now. I could see their faces in the torchlight. Hard faces. Faces that had seen too much suffering and had learned to turn that suffering into rage. At their head rode a man who could only be the chief. Older, perhaps 50, with silver streaking his long black hair. He sat his horse like he had been born in the saddle. When he raised his hand, all 40 riders stopped as one. He called out in Apache, his voice carrying across the valley like the judgment of God. Halona translated in a whisper. He say, "Come out, face justice. If you hide, he burn everything." I looked around at the 8 girls. They were watching me, waiting to see what I would do. Would I run? Would I hide? Would I throw myself on their father's mercy? I met Nasha's eyes. In them, I saw a challenge, a question. "What kind of man are you, Jacob Hayes?" I holstered my gun and opened the door. The chief's name was Neol, which meant wind. As I walked toward him, hands raised, I understood why. He carried the force of nature itself in his bearing. The warriors around him were young, hungry for glory. But Neol was old enough to have fought in the wars, to have seen his world torn apart by men who looked like me. "I am Jacob Hayes," I called out in English, hoping someone would translate. "I did not hurt your daughters. I saved them." A young warrior dismounted and strode forward. He was tall and muscular, perhaps 26, with the same fierce eyes as Nasha, her brother, Kuruk. "Liar," Kuruk said in good English. "3 nights ago I tracked my sisters here. I see you and 2 others, dragging them to barn. That was not me. I only arrived yesterday morning. My eyes not lie, white man. You wear same coat, same hat. You have same face." He spat at my feet. "You think we stupid? You think we not know our enemy?" Neol raised his hand again. Kuruk fell silent, though rage still burned in his eyes. The chief spoke, his voice heavy with grief. Halona had come to the doorway to translate. "My father says we search for 6 months. We think you dead. We cry. We cut our hair. We honor your spirits." She paused, emotion cracking her voice. "Then Scout finds you here, with white man, with man who steal you away." "I did not steal them," I said desperately. "Look at them. They are alive. I cut them down. I saved them." Kuruk pulled a knife from his belt. "You saved them so you can sell them. We know white man's tricks." "No, I saved them because it was the right thing to do." "Right?" Kuruk's laugh was bitter. "White man talk of right after he murder our mothers, steal our land, break every promise?" He took a step closer, blade gleaming. "I should kill you now, slow, make you pay for every tear my sisters cried." Suddenly, Nasha was there. She pushed past me, standing between her brother and me. Even wounded, even barely able to stand, she faced him with absolute defiance. She spoke in rapid Apache, her voice rising with each word. Kuruk's expression shifted from rage to confusion to something that might have been shame. Neol dismounted slowly. He walked forward until he stood face to face with his daughter. He raised his hand as if to touch her face, then let it fall. He spoke. Halona translated, her voice thick with tears. He says, "You ran. You shamed family. You chose white man's way over Apache way. Why should he believe you now?" Nasha's response was a single word, but it echoed across the valley with the weight of absolute truth. The chief staggered as if struck. Whatever she had said, it had cut him deeply. Kuruk grabbed his sister's arm. "Nasha, no, father raised you, fed you, loved you." Nasha pulled free. When she spoke again, it was in English, making sure I understood every word. "He loved the daughter he wanted, not the daughter I am." She pointed at me. "This man, he not know me, not know my name before tonight. But when he see us dying, he cut ropes. He save us. He ask nothing." She turned back to her father. "You choose pride over truth, father. That why I run. That why I never come back." The silence that followed was absolute. Even the torches seemed to still their flickering. Neil looked at me, really looked at me. I saw him taking in my blood-stained clothes, my rope-burned hands, the exhaustion written on every line of my face. "One day," he said in halting English, "you have one day. Prove you not the man who hang my daughters. If you lie," he drew his knife, the blade catching moonlight, "I make your death last many days." It was not forgiveness. It was not even really a chance, but it was more than I had expected. "Thank you," I said. Neil's eyes narrowed. "Do not thank me, white man. Thank my daughters. They speak for you. If they wrong—" He let the threat hang in the air. He gave orders to his warriors. 5 of them dismounted, taking positions around the house. Guards, watchers, waiting for me to fail. As the main force rode back into the darkness, Kuruk remained. He approached Nasha, his face a mixture of anger and relief and love. "Sister," he said softly, "we thought you dead. I thought I failed you." Nasha embraced him. For a moment she was just a young woman reunited with her brother. Then she pulled back, her expression hardening. "You did fail us, brother. You not come when father tried to force marriage. You say nothing when we beg for help. You choose father over us." Kuruk flinched as if slapped. "I was trying to protect you. If you had married, you would have been safe in the tribe." "Safe?" Nasha's laugh was sharp. "Safe like mother was safe? Safe like all the women who have no voice, no choice?" She shook her head. "That not safety. That cage." She turned and walked back into the house, leaving Kuruk standing alone in the moonlight. I moved to follow, but Kuruk's hand shot out, gripping my arm. His strength was impressive, his fingers like iron. "If she wrong about you," he said quietly, "if you hurt them, betray them, I will find you. I will cut you into pieces so small the coyotes will not bother to eat you." "I understand." "Do you?" His eyes bored into mine. "White men always say they understand. Then they lie, they cheat, they kill." I met his gaze steadily. "I am not every white man. Just like you are not every Apache. We are just men, and these women need our help." He released me, but the hostility remained. "We will see what kind of man you are, Jacob Hayes. We will see." Inside I found the 8 girls gathered around the fire. Someone had found blankets. Someone else had discovered dried meat and cornmeal in Silas's pantry. They were eating quietly, strength slowly returning. Diane, the youngest, was awake now. The bleeding from her head wound had stopped. She looked at me with huge dark eyes, taking in every detail of my face. "You the one who catch me," she said in halting English. "When I fall, yes? You cry, I hear you cry." She tilted her head, confused. Why white man cry for Apache girl? The question hit me harder than any of Kuruk's threats. Why had I cried? In that moment, seeing her fall, seeing the blood, what had I seen? Sarah, my daughter, 3 years old when the fever took her. I had held her as she died, helpless to save her, watching the light fade from her eyes. "Because," I said slowly, "no one should die alone and afraid. No one." Diane considered this. Then she smiled. It transformed her whole face, making her look even younger than her 15 years. "You good man," she pronounced with absolute certainty. "Father will see. He will forgive." I wished I had her faith. As the night deepened, I sat with the 8 girls and learned their stories. Each one had fled the tribe for different reasons. Nasha had refused to marry a warrior twice her age. Halona had wanted to read and write, things the tribe did not value for women. Kaya had witnessed her mother's murder and could not stay in a place of such pain. Lomasi had been captured as a child by Mexican slavers. When she finally escaped and found her way back to the tribe, she discovered her family dead. She had no home left. Nita had been born deaf in one ear. The tribe saw it as a bad omen. She had lived her whole life as an outsider, unwanted and unloved. Shima was an orphan, raised by the tribe's collective kindness. But kindness was not family. She had always felt alone, even in a crowd. Aida was strong and fast, better at hunting than many of the young warriors, but instead of praise, she received scorn. Women were not meant to be warriors. And Diani, the youngest, had simply followed her older sisters because she could not bear to be left behind. Silas had found them one by one, offering sanctuary, teaching them to read and write, to farm, to survive in the white man's world. He had promised them a future where they could choose their own paths. Then he had died, and the man who looked like me had come. "Tell me about him," I said. "The man who hanged you, what did he say?" Halona answered. "He say Silas stole land that belongs to him. Say he will take it back. But first, he need to make sure no one else comes. He knew about me. He say, Silas has nephew. Nephew will come. Nephew will try to save you." She paused. He laughed. "Say you will fail. Say you will die. Say then, land will be his." I thought about the man's face, my face. Someone had gone to great lengths to frame me for this. But why? What was so valuable about this dying ranch in this empty valley? I remembered the envelope from Tobias. Inside had been the map, but there had been something else, too. I had been so focused on the X marking the barn that I had not looked at the rest. I retrieved the map and studied it by firelight, the ranch, the creek, the valley, and there, along the eastern edge, a notation in Silas's handwriting. "Silver vein, richest deposit in Arizona Territory, worth millions." The piece fell into place. This was not about the ranch. It was about what lay beneath it. Someone wanted this land badly enough to kill for it, badly enough to frame me for murder, badly enough to hang 8 innocent girls as bait. "We need to leave," I said suddenly. "All of us, tonight. If someone is willing to do this, they will come back." "Where we go?" Nasha asked. "Tribe will not take us back. Whitetown will not accept us, this only place we have." She was right. We were trapped. 8 Apache girls, wanted by neither their own people nor mine. And me, a man accused of a crime I did not commit, with only 1 day to prove my innocence. "Then we make our stand here," I said. "Tomorrow I will find proof. I will find the man who did this, and I will make him answer for it." Nasha studied me for a long moment. Then she reached into her dress and pulled out a leather cord. On it hung a silver medallion, intricately carved with symbols I did not recognize. "Silas give me this," she said, "before he die. He say, when Jacob comes, give him this. Say it will show him the way." I took the medallion, feeling its weight. On one side, the symbols. On the other, words engraved in English. "The truth is in the valley. Your father." My father, Thomas Hayes, dead by his own hand 24 years ago. "What did Silas tell you about my father?" I asked Nasha. "He say your father good man, soldier, but war broke him. He do things in war, terrible things. After, he could not live with what he done." The room seemed to spin. My father had been a cavalry soldier. He had fought in the Apache wars. I had never known details. My mother refused to speak of it. "What things?" My voice came out as a whisper. Nasha's expression was unreadable. "Silas not say exactly, only that your father make him promise. Promise to protect the innocent. Promise to never let happen again." "Let what happen again?" But before she could answer, the door burst open. Kuruk stood there, breathing hard. Behind him I could see the 5 Apache guards running toward us, weapons drawn. "Riders coming," Kuruk said. "Many riders, not Apache." I grabbed my rifle and moved to the window. In the distance, torches approached, 20, maybe 30 of them. As they drew closer, I could make out men on horseback, white men, armed and moving with purpose. At their head rode a figure I recognized even at a distance. The same coat, the same hat, the same face as mine. He had come back, and he had brought an army. I turned to the 8 girls. They were all on their feet now, fear written plainly on their faces. Even Nasha looked shaken. "They will burn us out," she said. "Kill us all. Blame Apache raiders." "Not if I can help it," I said, checking my rifle. I had perhaps 40 rounds. Against 30 men, it was not enough, not nearly enough. Karuk moved to my side. I fight with you. Your father told you to watch me, not die with me. My sisters are here. I fight. He drew a wicked-looking knife. Besides, you need someone who knows how to kill white men. Despite everything, I almost smiled. The riders stopped 50 yards out. In the torchlight, I got my first clear look at my doppelganger. He had dismounted and stood with arms crossed, utterly confident. "Jacob Hayes," he called out, "let us talk man to man." I stepped onto the porch, rifle ready. "I am listening." He walked forward until we were separated by perhaps 20 feet. Close enough now that I could see the differences. He was older by a few years. His scar was on the opposite side of his face, and his eyes, as Nasha had said, were dead inside. "You are wondering who I am," he said. "Allow me to introduce myself. Colonel Ezra Dalton, formerly of the United States Cavalry, and your old friend from West Point." The name hit me like a fist. Ezra Dalton. We had been classmates, rivals. People had joked about how similar we looked, but that had been 15 years ago. I had not thought of him since. "What do you want, Ezra?" "The same thing I have always wanted, Jacob, to win." He gestured at the valley around us. "This land sits atop the richest silver vein in Arizona. Your Uncle Silas refused to sell, so I removed him. Then I discovered he had left it to you. So I created a situation that would force you to sell, or better yet, get you killed for murdering 8 Apache girls. You failed. They are alive." "Are they?" His smile was cold. "I wonder. When Chief Nyol discovers that you are still here, that his daughters are still in danger, what do you think he will do? When my men here burn this place down, and the Apache arrive to find 8 charred bodies, who do you think he will blame?" The plan was elegant in its cruelty. Pin me for murder, then actually commit the murder and blame someone else. Either way, the land would be free for the taking. "I will not let you do this," I said. "You cannot stop me. Look around, Jacob. You have a rifle, a savage with a knife, and 8 half-dead girls. I have 30 armed men. It is over." I raised my rifle, pointing it directly at his chest. "Then I will start by killing you." He did not even flinch. "Go ahead. The moment you pull that trigger, my men will burn this place to ash. Those girls will die screaming, and you will die knowing you failed them." He tilted his head. "Or you could be smart, sign over the land, take the girls and leave. I will even pay you $50,000, enough to start over anywhere you want. Blood money. Money is money, Jacob. What does it matter where it comes from?" I thought about Emma and Sarah, about the years I had drifted, broken and alone, carrying guilt like stones in my pockets. I had failed them. I had been working in the city when the fever came. By the time I got home, they were already gone. I had not been there when they needed me most. Now 8 more lives hung in the balance. 8 young women who had committed no crime except wanting to be free. I lowered the rifle. Ezra smiled. "I knew you would see reason. You were always the smart one, Jacob. Always knew when to fold." "I am not folding," I said quietly. "I am just done talking." I fired. Not at Ezra. At the torch in the hand of the man behind him. The burning brand spun through the air, landing in the dry grass near the horses. The animals panicked, rearing and bucking. Men shouted, chaos erupted. "Now!" I shouted. Karuk did not hesitate. He hurled his knife, and it took one of Ezra's men in the throat. The man went down choking. From the house, rifle fire erupted. Nasha and Lomasi, both skilled shots, were firing from the windows, and from the darkness beyond the torches came a sound that made my blood run cold and my heart soar at the same time. War drums. Chief Nyol and 40 Apache warriors burst from the night like avenging spirits. They had been waiting in the darkness, watching, and when I fired that first shot, they had taken it as the signal. Ezra's men tried to form up, tried to return fire. But they were caught between Apache warriors on one side and gunfire from the house on the other. They broke, they ran. Some made it onto their horses and fled into the night. Others were not so lucky. Ezra Dalton stood frozen, watching his carefully laid plans crumble. When he finally turned to run, he found Kuruk blocking his path. "You hang my sisters," Kuruk said softly. "Now you hang." But before he could strike, I stepped between them. "No," I said, "not like this." Kuruk's eyes blazed. "He deserves death. He deserves justice." I pointed at Chief Neol, who was riding toward us. "Let your father decide." Neol dismounted and walked slowly to where Ezra stood. The two men locked eyes. One was a chief who had lost everything to men like Ezra. The other was a colonel who saw the Apache as nothing more than obstacles to be removed. Neol spoke in Apache. Halona translated from the doorway. "He asks, 'Are you the man who hanged his daughters?'" Ezra said nothing. Neol asked again, his voice rising. "Yes," Ezra finally spat. "I hanged them. They were savages. Animals. I was doing the world a favor." The clearing fell silent. Even the wind seemed to hold its breath. Neol nodded slowly. Then he turned to me. "You were right," he said in English. "He deserved justice, Apache justice." He gave orders. 4 warriors grabbed Ezra, binding his hands. They would take him back to the tribe. He would face their laws, their punishment. As they led him away, Ezra looked back at me. "This is not over, Hayes. I have friends, money. I will be free within a month, and when I am, I will come back. I will finish what I started." But even as he spoke, I saw the fear in his eyes. He knew what Apache justice meant. He would not be free in a month. He would be lucky to survive the week. When the warriors had gone, taking their prisoner into the darkness, Neol approached me. He studied my face for a long time. Then he placed his hand on my shoulder. "You save my daughters," he said. "You fight for them when you could run. You risk life for people, not your blood." He paused. "Silas was right about you. You knew Silas? For many years? He was friend to Apache when no other white man was. He tell me, someday his nephew come, nephew who carry father's guilt. Nephew who will choose right over easy." My throat tightened. "Silas said that?" Neol nodded. "He believe in you, before you believe in yourself." He glanced back at the house where his daughters stood watching. "Now I believe too." He remounted his horse. Before riding away, he called back to Kuruk. "Stay, help rebuild. Your sisters need their brother." Then he was gone, taking his warriors and leaving behind only the 5 guards who would watch over us until justice was fully served. I walked back into the house on unsteady legs. Adrenaline was fading, leaving behind bone-deep exhaustion. The 8 girls were gathered around the fire again. This time they were smiling. Nasha approached me. Without a word, she pressed something into my hand. A key. "Silas kept journal," she said, "in locked box under his bed. He say, if Jacob comes and proves himself, give him key, give him truth." My hand closed around the cold metal. "What truth?" "Truth about your father. About Silas. About why he protected us." She met my eyes. "About Canyon Creek." The name sent ice through my veins. Canyon Creek, the massacre, one of the darkest moments in the Apache Wars. "My father was at Canyon Creek?" I whispered. "Read journal," Nasha said. "Then you understand." I wanted to open that box immediately, but I was so tired. My body felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds. I managed to make it to Silas's room, found the locked box under the bed. But when I tried to open it, my hands shook so badly I could barely fit the key in the lock. Tomorrow, I told myself. Tomorrow I would learn the truth. I collapsed onto the bed fully clothed, still covered in blood and dirt and rope fiber. My last thought before sleep claimed me was of 8 faces. 8 young women who had been left to die, but had instead been given a chance at life. 8 souls I had saved. Or perhaps, I thought as darkness took me, 8 souls who had saved me. Dawn came too soon, painting the valley in shades of gold and amber. I woke to the smell of coffee and cornbread, my body screaming protest at every movement. The rope burns on my hands had blistered overnight. My shoulders ached from carrying 8 bodies, but I was alive, and more importantly, so were they. I found the 8 girls in the main room, moving with the quiet efficiency of people who had learned to survive together. Kaya was tending a pot over the fire. Shima was sweeping the floor, humming softly. Aida stood guard at the window, watching the Apache sentries who watched us in return. Nasha sat at the table, the locked box from Silas's room in front of her. She looked up when I entered, her dark eyes unreadable. "You did not open it," she observed. "I was too tired, too afraid maybe." I poured myself coffee from the pot, savoring the bitter warmth. "What am I going to find in there, Nasha?" "Truth, like I said." She pushed the box toward me. "But first, you eat. Read on empty stomach is bad idea." Despite everything, I smiled. There was something maternal in the way she said it, as if I were the one who needed protecting instead of her. Kaya brought me a plate of cornbread and dried venison. As I ate, I watched the girls move around the room. Each one bore the marks of their ordeal. Rope burns circled their necks like grotesque jewelry. Diani's head was wrapped in clean bandages, blood seeping through in places. Lomasi moved stiffly, favoring her left side where bruises had bloomed purple and black. But they were alive. They were moving. They were surviving. When I finished eating, there were no more excuses. I pulled the box closer and fitted the key into the lock. It turned with a soft click that seemed too loud in the quiet room. Inside lay a leather-bound journal, its pages yellowed with age. Tucked into the front cover was a photograph. I lifted it with trembling fingers. 2 young men in cavalry uniforms stood side by side, their arms around each other's shoulders. They were grinning at the camera with the confidence of youth, of men who had not yet learned what war truly meant. I recognized my father immediately, even though I had been only 10 when he died. The same nose, the same serious eyes that could suddenly spark with humor. The man beside him was Silas, 25 years younger, before life had carved lines into his face. On the back of the photograph, someone had written, "Thomas Hayes and Silas Hayes, 7th Cavalry, Fort Apache, 1868. My hands shook as I opened the journal. The first entry was dated January 1868. "Thomas and I arrived at Fort Apache today. The land here is beautiful but unforgiving, much like the people we are meant to pacify. I pray we can find a way to peace. Thomas believes it is possible. I want to believe him." I flipped through pages chronicling the mundane details of garrison life. Drills, patrols, letters from home. Then, in October of that same year, the tone changed. "Major Morrison gave us our orders today. We are to pursue a band of Apache who escaped the reservation. Thomas questioned the order. He said the Apache were fleeing because their rations were cut, because their children were starving. Morrison called him a coward, a savage lover." I stood silent. God forgive me, I stood silent. My throat tightened. I turned the page. "We found them at Canyon Creek. 37 Apache, mostly women and children. The warriors had gone to hunt. Morrison ordered us to attack anyway. Thomas refused. He said these were not combatants. These were families. Morrison drew his pistol and shot Thomas in the leg. Then he gave the order to fire." The words blurred. I had to stop reading, had to take a breath. Across the table, Nasha watched me with those knowing eyes. "Keep reading," she said softly. "Whole truth still ahead." I forced myself to continue. "I will carry the sounds of Canyon Creek until I die. Women screaming, children crying, Thomas, wounded and helpless, shouting for us to stop. But we did not stop. We could not. Orders were orders. When it was over, 37 bodies lay in the creek. The water ran red for days." My father's voice echoed across the years. I could see him, young and idealistic, watching his comrades commit atrocities in the name of duty. Thomas tried to report Morrison for war crimes. Instead, Thomas was court-martialed for refusing orders and assaulting a superior officer. Morrison claimed Thomas had gone insane, that the wound had addled his brain. The Army believed Morrison. Thomas was dishonorably discharged. The last time I saw him, he told me, Brother, I tried to save them. I failed. Promise me you will not fail when your time comes. The entry ended there. I flipped forward, searching for more. The next relevant entry was dated 15 years later, 1883. I met a woman today. Apache. Her name was Amma, and she survived Canyon Creek. She was 7 years old then. She remembers Thomas. She told me she had 8 daughters, all born into a tribe that saw Canyon Creek as the moment they learned white men could not be trusted. She was 7 years old then. She remembers Thomas. She remembers how he tried to stop the shooting, how he threw himself over her and 2 other children, using his own body as a shield. His blood covered her. She thought he was dead. When she learned he lived, she wanted to thank him. But Thomas was already gone, dead by his own hand, unable to live with what he had witnessed. Tears streamed down my face. I did not try to stop them. Halona told me she had daughters, 8 of them, all born into a tribe that saw Canyon Creek as the moment they learned white men could not be trusted. She asked me, how can I protect my daughters from a world that sees them as less than human? I did not have an answer, but I made her a promise. The promise Thomas made me make. I will protect them, no matter the cost. I looked up at the girl called Halona, the scholar, the teacher. She was watching me with tears in her own eyes. Your mother, I said hoarsely. She was at Canyon Creek. Halona nodded. She died 5 years ago, fever. Before she died, she tell us about soldier who saved her life. She say he had kind eyes. She say he cry when he see what his brothers do. She paused. She say his name was Thomas. The weight of it crushed me. My father had not participated in the massacre. He had tried to stop it, had been wounded for it, had been destroyed by it. And these 8 girls were the daughters and granddaughters of the women he had tried to save. Silas kept his promise, Nusha said. He protect Halona's daughters. He protect us. Now you keep same promise. Like father. Like uncle. I turned back to the journal, reading faster now. Silas documented how he had helped the girls escape forced marriages, how he had taught them to read and write, how he had planned to deed the ranch to them after his death. Then came the final entry, dated 3 months ago. Ezra Dalton came today. He knows about the silver. He offered me $10,000 for the ranch. When I refused, he threatened to tell the army about the girls I am hiding. I told him I would rather die than sell. He smiled and said that could be arranged. I do not have much time. I am writing to Jacob, Thomas's son. I pray he is the man his father was. I pray he will finish what we started. Protect them, Jacob. They are all that is left of our redemption. The entry ended with a dark stain that might have been ink or might have been blood. I closed the journal slowly. Around me, the 8 girls waited. They had heard pieces of this story from Silas, but now they were hearing it through me, through my father's legacy. Your father was good man, Kaya said finally, breaking the silence. He saved my grandmother. She tells story many times before she die. She say, someday, good white man come again. Maybe she see future, maybe she see you. I am not my father, I said. He was brave enough to stand against his own people. I just stumbled into this by accident. No accident, Nasha said firmly. Silas know you come. He prepare for you. This, your path. Your choice is only what you do with it. Before I could respond, Kuruk burst through the door. He was breathing hard, his face grim. Riders coming, he said, from town, with sheriff. I grabbed my rifle and moved to the window. A group of perhaps 10 men approached on horseback. In the lead rode a portly man wearing a tin star. Behind him, I recognized Tobias Cole, the lawyer. The sheriff, I said. Ezra must have friends in town after all. We fight? Kuruk asked, hand on his knife. No, not yet. Let me hear what they want. I stepped onto the porch as the riders arrived. The sheriff was a man of about 50, with a red face and small, calculating eyes. His name was Dalton. No relation to Ezra, but bought and paid for all the same. Jacob Hayes, his voice was thick with false authority. That is me. Sheriff Horace Pyle, I am here to place you under arrest for the attempted murder of 8 Apache women." My stomach dropped. "On whose authority?" "On the authority of Colonel Ezra Dalton, who filed a complaint yesterday. Said he found you in the act of hanging them girls. Said you shot at him when he tried to intervene." The lie was breathtaking in its audacity. Ezra had turned the entire situation on its head. "That is not what happened," I said carefully. "Colonel Dalton is the one who hanged them. I cut them down and saved their lives." Sheriff Pyle's expression did not change. "You got witnesses to that?" "8 of them, the girls themselves." "Apache witnesses don't count in a white man's court, son. You know that." He gestured to his deputies. "Now, you can come peaceable, or we can do this the hard way." Behind me, I heard movement. The 8 girls had come to the doorway. Nasha stepped forward, her voice clear and strong. "He speak truth. Dalton hang us. Hayes save us." Pyle barely glanced at her. "Like I said, Apache testimony don't count. Now step aside, girl." "No." Nasha planted herself in front of me. "You arrest him. You arrest us too. We not let him go alone." The other 7 girls moved to stand beside her. 8 young women, bruised and battered, forming a wall between me and the law. "This is touching," Pyle said, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "But it don't change nothing. Move, or I will move you." "You try," Nasha said coldly, "and Chief Neol hear about it. Then you explain to him why you touch his daughters." For the first time, uncertainty flickered across Pyle's face. The Apache were technically under federal jurisdiction, not his. And Neol's tribe was one of the largest in the territory. Starting a war over this would be career suicide. But he had been paid. He had to deliver. "Fine," he said finally. "The girls can stay, but Hayes comes with us." "No." This voice came from behind Pyle. Tobias Cole urged his horse forward. "Actually, Sheriff, he does not." Pyle turned in his saddle. "Tobias, you stay out of this." "I am afraid I cannot. You see, I have been doing some research." Tobias pulled papers from his saddlebag. "According to territorial law, any crime involving Apache must be investigated jointly by civil and tribal authorities. You cannot arrest Mr. Hayes without Chief Neol's consent. That is a technicality. It is the law, and as the only lawyer in this valley, I am obligated to see it enforced." Tobias looked at me. "I have already sent word to the chief. He should arrive within the hour. Until then, Mr. Hayes remains here." Pyle's face turned an even deeper shade of red. "Dalton will hear about this, Cole. You are making a powerful enemy." "Ezra Dalton is currently awaiting Apache justice for crimes against the tribe. I doubt he will be in a position to make trouble for anyone." Tobias's voice was mild, but his eyes were hard. "Sheriff, I suggest you return to town. Tell whoever paid you to come here that they wasted their money." For a long moment I thought Pyle might try to force the issue. His hand drifted toward his gun. Behind him, his deputies shifted nervously. Then Kuruk stepped into view, flanked by the 5 Apache sentries Neol had left. All of them were armed. All of them were watching the sheriff with expressions that promised violence. Pyle was corrupt, but he was not stupid. He knew when he was outmatched. "This ain't over," he muttered. But he turned his horse and rode away, his deputies following. When they were gone, I turned to Tobias. "Thank you. Why did you help me?" The old lawyer dismounted slowly, his movements stiff with age. "Because Silas was my friend, and because I have spent too many years watching bad men get away with terrible things." He handed me the papers he had shown the sheriff. "These are deeds to the ranch. Silas filed them 6 months ago, dividing the property into 9 equal shares. 1 for you, 8 for the girls. It is all legal and binding." I stared at the documents. He planned this from the beginning. Silas was many things, but foolish was not one of them. He knew someone would come after this land eventually. He wanted to make sure it would not be easy to take. Tobias looked at the 8 girls. He wanted to make sure they would be protected. Nasha took the papers from my hand, studying them carefully. Her reading had improved under Silas's teaching, but legal documents were still challenging. Halona moved to her side, translating the difficult words. "This mean we own land?" Nasha asked finally. "Yes," Tobias confirmed. "Each of you owns 1/9 of this ranch. No one can take it without buying out all 9 of you. And the way Silas structured it, you must all agree to any sale. One person can block the entire transaction." "Smart," Kuruk said admiringly. "Very smart." "But there is more." Tobias pulled out another document. "This is Silas's last will and testament. He left detailed instructions. The 9 of you must work the land together. If any one person leaves or tries to sell their share separately, that share reverts to the others equally. You are bound together by law and by land." I looked at the 8 girls. We were strangers, bound by tragedy, and now by legal document. Could we really make this work? Could I stay here, in this valley that held so much pain and promise? "We need to talk," I said to them, all of us, about what happens next. We gathered inside, around the table where 8 tin cups still sat in their circle. Tobias joined us, as did Kuruk. The Apache sentries remained outside, but I suspected they were listening. "I did not come here expecting any of this," I began. "I thought I would look at the ranch, decide if I wanted to keep it or sell it, then move on. I have been moving on for 3 years, ever since my wife and daughter died." Diani, the youngest, spoke up. "You run from pain, like us." Her words were simple, but cut to the bone. Yes, I had been running. From guilt, from grief, from the memory of Emma's disappointed eyes and Sarah's last labored breaths. "But I cannot run anymore," I continued. "Silas left me this responsibility. My father's legacy demands it. And you 8 deserve better than to be abandoned again." "So you stay?" Nasha asked. There was hope in her voice, carefully hidden, but present. "I stay, if you will have me, if we can find a way to make this work." "There is more you should know," Halona said quietly. She glanced at Nasha, who nodded. "About Nasha, about why she's different from us." Nasha stood slowly. She pulled off the shawl covering her shoulders, revealing her neck and upper back. In the morning light, I could see what I had missed in the chaos of the previous night. Her skin was lighter than the others, her features slightly different, and across her back ran old scars, the kind left by whips. "I am half white," she said simply. "My mother, she was wife of Neil. But before that she was with another man, soldier. That soldier was Silas." The revelation hit me like a physical blow. "Silas was your father." "Yes, he never say it out loud, but I know, I always know." She traced the scars on her back. "Tribe knew too. They punished me for it, for being proof of my mother's shame. Neil raised me because he loved my mother, but he never loved me, not really." I thought about the journal entry, about Halona's mother, the Canyon Creek survivor, about promises made and kept. "So you are my cousin," I said. Nasha smiled, a sad but genuine expression. "Yes, family, Silas's blood, your blood." It explained so much. Why Silas had been so determined to protect her, why he had left the ranch to me, knowing I would find her here. He had been trying to give her what he never could while alive, a family that would claim her, protect her, love her without shame. "Then this is not just about keeping a promise to strangers," I said. "This is about family." "We all family now," Shima said cheerfully. She had been quiet through most of the discussion, but now she smiled broadly. 8 sisters and 1 brother. Strange family, but family. Despite everything, I laughed. The sound was rusty, unpracticed. How long had it been since I had truly laughed? "Strangest family in Arizona, probably," I agreed. "There is still the matter of Ezra Dalton," Tobias reminded us. "He is with the Apache now, facing their justice. But he has powerful friends, men with money and influence. They will try to free him, and when they do, he will come back." "Then we prepare," Kuruk said. "Fortify ranch. Train to fight. Be ready." "And we need allies," I added. "We cannot face this alone." "Tobias, you said Dalton has powerful friends. Who are they?" The lawyer's expression darkened. Mining interests mostly, men who know about the silver vein under this land. They have been quietly buying up property in the valley for months. Silas's ranch was the last holdout. With him gone and you framed for murder, they thought the land would be easy pickings. How much is the silver worth? Millions. Enough to make this valley one of the richest in the territory. Enough to kill for, certainly. I stood and walked to the window. Outside, the valley stretched away in all directions, beautiful and deadly. Somewhere beneath my feet lay a fortune, blood money built on the backs of the dead. "We are not mining it," I said suddenly. Everyone turned to look at me. "The silver," I clarified. "We are not mining it. That is what started all this. The greed, the killing, we leave it in the ground." "But think what we could do with that money," Helona protested. "Schools for Apache children, medicine, food." "And think what others would do to take it from us," I countered. "We would never have peace. Every criminal, every corrupt official, every desperate man in the territory would come for us. Is that the life you want?" Silence fell as they considered my words. "We work the land instead," Nasha said slowly. "Farm, raise cattle, live simple, live free. Yes, we build something honest here, something that does not cost lives to maintain." "The mining companies will not like that," Tobias warned. "They will do everything in their power to force you out or force you to sell." "Let them try," Kuruk said. He looked at his sisters, then at me. "We fight before. We fight again. This time, we fight together." One by one, each girl nodded. Even little Diani, her head still bandaged, straightened her shoulders and declared, "I fight too. I'm not afraid." "It is settled then," I said. "We stay, we build, we protect what is ours." "Then you will need help," a new voice said from the doorway. We all turned to find Chief Neol standing there. He must have arrived while we were talking. Behind him stood 20 warriors, all fully armed. "Father?" Nasha said, surprise clear in her voice. Neol stepped inside slowly, his eyes taking in the scene. 8 girls gathered around one white man, Kuruk standing with us instead of apart. The legal documents spread across the table. "I speak with Ezra Dalton," Neol said. His English was better than I had heard the previous night, as if he had been hiding his fluency. "He tell me many things before he die." "Die?" I echoed. "Apache justice is swift. He hang 8 of my daughters. He hang for 8 days, 1 day for each girl. He die this morning at dawn." Neol's expression was implacable. "But before death he tell me about silver, about other white men who want this land, about plans to start war between Apache and settlers so they can take land cheap." He walked to where Nasha stood, and for the first time since I had met him, he touched her face gently. "I come to say I am sorry. Sorry I not protect you. Sorry I not see you. Sorry I let others hurt you because of my pride." His voice cracked. "You are my daughter, not by blood, but by choice, by love. I should have said this long ago." Nasha's eyes filled with tears. She threw her arms around her father, and he held her as she sobbed. Around them, the other 7 girls began to cry as well. Even Kuruk had to turn away, overcome with emotion. When the storm of feeling finally passed, Neol stepped back and addressed all of us. "You want to stay here? Build life? You have my protection. My warriors will help guard this land. But in return, I ask something." "What?" I asked warily. "Teach my people. Show them how to read, write, farm like white men. We cannot fight white man's world with only old ways. We must learn new ways too." He looked at his daughters. "You learn from Silas. Now you teach others." It was a remarkable offer. A bridge between 2 worlds built on the foundation of 8 young women who belonged to both. "We accept," I said without hesitation. Neol nodded. Then he did something that shocked everyone. He extended his hand to me in the white man's fashion. "Jacob Hayes, you are man of honor. Like your father, like Silas, you are welcome in Apache land. You are welcome in my home." He paused. "You are family now." I took his hand, feeling the strength in his grip, the weight of his words. "Thank you, Chief. I will not fail you. I will not fail them. I know. If I thought you would, you be dead already." Despite the grim words, there was almost a twinkle in his eye. Dark humor, but humor nonetheless. Over the next few hours, we began to plan in earnest. Neol's warriors would set up a permanent camp on the edge of the ranch, close enough to respond to threats but far enough to respect our privacy. Karuk would stay at the ranch itself, helping with the work and serving as liaison. Halona would begin teaching reading and writing to any Apache who wished to learn. Kaya would combine her knowledge of Apache medicine with what she could learn from the white doctor in town. The others would take on roles suited to their skills, and I would work the land, rebuild the ranch, and try to create something worthy of my father's sacrifice and Silas's faith. It would not be easy. The mining companies would not give up. Other threats would come. But for the first time since Emma and Sarah died, I felt something stirring in my chest that might have been hope. As the day wore on, people began to leave. Neol and most of his warriors returned to the tribal lands. Tobias rode back to town to begin filing the legal paperwork that would cement our claims. Even some of the girls went to rest, exhausted by the emotional weight of the morning. I found myself alone on the porch as the sun began its descent. The valley was painted in gold and shadow, beautiful beyond words. "You did good today." I turned to find Nasha standing behind me. She moved silently, a skill learned from years of being invisible. "I did not do anything special," I said. "I just told the truth. Truth is special when so many people lie." She came to stand beside me, looking out at the same view. "You know what Silas say to me before he die?" "What?" "He say, Jacob is coming. Jacob will be afraid. Jacob will want to run. But Jacob will stay because Hayes men do not abandon family." She glanced at me. He was right. He had more faith in me than I deserve. Maybe you should have more faith in yourself. We stood in comfortable silence for a while. Then Nasha spoke again, her voice softer. "I never have real father before. Neol try. But he always see Silas when he look at me. Always see my mother's choice." She paused. "But today, he see me. Just me. That is gift you give us. You make family see each other again. I think you did that yourselves. I just happened to be here." "No, you choose to be here. That is different." She touched my arm lightly. "Thank you, cousin, for staying, for fighting, for caring about 8 Apache girls you never meet before." 9, I corrected gently. "Not 8. 9 people in this family now." She smiled, and it transformed her face. In that moment I could see Silas in her features, the same determined jaw, the same eyes that had seen too much but still chose to hope. "Yes," she agreed. 9. As the sun set over the valley, I thought about my father, about how he had tried to save people at Canyon Creek and failed, about how that failure had consumed him until he could not bear to live with it. But maybe, just maybe, through Silas and now through me, he had succeeded after all. Not in saving the ones who died, but in saving the ones who lived. 8 daughters of survivors given a chance to thrive, 1 broken man given a chance to heal. 9 souls bound together by land and law and something deeper than blood. Family. The word felt strange in my mind, unfamiliar after so long alone. But it also felt right, like a key finally turning in a lock that had been stuck for years. I was home, not because of the land or the ranch or even the silver buried beneath it, but because of the people who stood beside me, ready to build something new from the ashes of the old. As darkness fell, lights began to appear in the windows of the ranch house. Inside, I could hear voices laughing and talking, the sound of life returning to a place that had been dead for too long. I took a deep breath of the cool evening air and smiled. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. The mining companies would not give up easily. There would be more threats, more violence, more attempts to drive us away. But tonight, we had won. We had survived. We had become something more than the sum of our parts. And that, I thought as I turned to go inside and join my strange new family, was enough. For now, it was more than enough. 3 days after Chief Neol had taken Ezra Dalton away to face Apache justice, the reality of what we had undertaken began to settle in. The ranch was more damaged than I had initially thought. The fire Dalton's men had started had consumed half the western fence line. The barn where I had found the girls hanging bore scorch marks along one wall, and everywhere I looked, I saw evidence of neglect and decay. But it was not just the physical damage that needed repair. I woke on that third morning to find Lomasi screaming. Her cries shattered the pre-dawn quiet, sending everyone scrambling from their beds. I found her in the corner of the room she shared with Aita and Nita, pressed against the wall, eyes wide and unseeing. "The rope," she gasped in Apache, her hands clawing at her throat. "I can still feel the rope." Kaya rushed to her side, speaking softly in their native tongue, but Lomasi could not hear her. She was trapped somewhere else, reliving the moment the noose had tightened around her neck. I stood helpless in the doorway, watching as the other girls surrounded their sister, their hands gentle, their voices low and soothing. This was not something I could fix with hammer and nails. This was damage that went deeper than flesh. It took nearly an hour to bring Lomasi back. When she finally stopped shaking, when her breathing slowed and her eyes focused again, she looked at each of us with such profound shame that it hurt to witness. "I am sorry," she whispered. "I am warrior. I should be strong." "Being strong does not mean not being afraid," Nasha said firmly. She sat beside Lomasi, taking her hand. "It means being afraid and still choosing to live." But Lomasi was not the only one struggling. Over the next few days, I saw how trauma had marked each of them differently. Nita, who had been deaf in one ear since birth, now flinched at sudden movements, as if expecting violence from every shadow. She had stopped drawing, her fingers trembling too much to hold charcoal steady. Dayani, the youngest, would wake in the night calling for her mother. The head wound she had suffered was healing slowly, leaving her with blinding headaches that sometimes lasted for hours. Kaya tended to her with herbs and patience, but even she could not ease the pain completely. And there was Kuruk, my Apache brother who had chosen to stay at the ranch rather than return to the tribe. He carried his own wounds, though he tried to hide them behind stoic silence. I found him one morning sitting by the creek bed, staring at the thin trickle of water that remained from the spring melt. His shoulders were tense, his jaw clenched. "You are thinking about them," I said quietly, sitting beside him. He did not ask who I meant. 17 months ago, I had a wife, Chenoa. She was carrying our child. His voice was flat, emotionless, in the way of men trying not to feel. Canyon Creek survivors, her family, always afraid, always angry. When she learns she is pregnant, she afraid to bring child into this world. What happened to her? Raiders came. Mexican slavers. They take women and children from our camp while men are hunting. We chase them, we fight, we get most people back. He picked up a stone and threw it into the creek. But not Chenoa. They kill her. Kill our baby inside her. The words hung in the air between us like smoke. "I am sorry," I said, knowing the words were inadequate. "After, I am angry. So angry. I want to kill every white man, every Mexican, everyone who is not Apache." He looked at me finally. "Then my sisters run away. Father say, let them go. They make their choice. But I cannot. I track them for months, always one step behind. When I finally find them here, I see men who look like you dragging them to barn. I hide. I watch. I am coward. You were outnumbered. I should have died trying to save them. Instead, I run to get father. By time we return, you already here. You already saved them." His hands clenched into fists. "You do what I should have done. White man save my sisters when Apache warrior does not." I understood then. Kuruk had not stayed at the ranch just to help protect it. He had stayed because he was seeking redemption, the same as I was. "You are here now?" I said. "That is what matters. The girls need you. I need you. We are building something here, Karuk. Something that honors the dead by protecting the living." He nodded slowly, but said nothing more. That afternoon, Chief Neol arrived unexpectedly. He rode alone without the warriors who usually accompanied him. His face was drawn, aged by more than just the 3 days since I had last seen him. "It is done," he announced simply. "Dalton is dead. He suffered 8 days, as was proper. He confessed much before the end." We gathered in the main room, all 9 of us plus Neol. The chief looked older somehow, wearier, as if the weight of justice had cost him something vital. "What did he confess?" I asked. Neol's jaw tightened. "He tell of others, white men in town who help him, who pay him, who want this land." He pulled papers from his coat. "Before he die, I make him write it down. Names, amounts of money, plans." I took the papers, scanning the shaky handwriting. Dalton had indeed named names. The assayer in town who had first discovered the silver vein, the banker who had financed the scheme, the merchant who had provided supplies. And most damning of all, Sheriff Pyle, who had been paid $500 to arrest me and look the other way while Dalton's men burned us out. "This is evidence," I said. "We can take this to the territorial marshal, have them all arrested." But Neol shook his head. "Marshal is 3 days' ride away. In 3 days, these men will destroy papers, hide money, disappear. We need different justice." "What are you proposing?" "Make them see. Make whole town see what they do." He looked at his daughters. "My girls, they hide for 6 months. Hide because they shame, because they think they are problem, but they are not problem. These men are problem. We make them face what they do in light, not darkness." Nasha understood first. Public trial, like white man's court. But we tell story, show evidence, make them answer in front of everyone. "Yes," Neol confirmed. "Apache justice is done. Now must be white man's justice too, or there will always be more Daltons. More men who think they can hurt Apache and nothing happen." It was a bold plan, possibly foolish. But looking around at the 8 faces watching me with hope and determination, I knew we had to try. "We will need help," I said. "Tobias can help organize it. But we need more than just a lawyer. We need witnesses, people willing to stand up." "I will stand," Karuk said immediately. "We all will," Halona added. The other girls nodded in agreement. "And I will make sure Apache people come," Neol said. "Fill the town. Show we are not hiding anymore. Show we are not afraid." Over the next week, we prepared. Tobias, when we told him the plan, was initially skeptical. But when he read Dalton's confession, when he saw the names of men he had known for years, his skepticism turned to cold fury. "They have been poisoning this valley for a long time," he said, his hands shaking with anger. "I suspected, but I could never prove it. This changes everything." He began filing motions, demanding a public inquiry into the attempted murder of 8 Apache women. As the territorial attorney was unavailable, Tobias himself would present the case. It was irregular, possibly illegal, but the territorial judge, when telegraphed, agreed to allow it. Perhaps he too was tired of looking the other way. During that week of preparation, something remarkable happened. The ranch began to come back to life. With Kuruk and 5 Apache warriors helping, we rebuilt the burned fence line. We cleared the barn of the bloodstains and rope fibers, though we could not clear the memories. The girls threw themselves into work with an intensity that spoke of their need for purpose. Halona set up a small school in one corner of the main house, teaching reading and writing not just to the younger Apache children who came with their parents, but to the adults as well. Her patience was extraordinary. I would hear her voice, gentle and encouraging, repeating the same lesson over and over until it stuck. Kaya turned one of the outbuildings into a clinic of sorts. She combined Apache healing knowledge with medical techniques learned from a book Tobias had brought from town. Word spread quickly. Soon, Apache families were traveling from far away to see the healer who bridged 2 worlds. Lomazi, despite her nightmares, proved to be the best shot among us. She spent hours practicing with the rifle Silas had left, her hands steady when they held a weapon, even if they shook at other times. She began teaching Aita, and even little Diani, how to shoot, how to defend themselves if needed. Shima, true to her name, which meant mother, became the heart of our strange household. She cooked, she cleaned, she made sure everyone ate and rested. But more than that, she made us laugh. In the darkest moments, when the weight of what we faced threatened to crush us, Shima would crack a joke or start singing, and suddenly breathing became easier again. Nita slowly began to draw again. Her first new sketch was of the 8 girls standing together, arms linked, facing forward. She gave it to me without a word, and I hung it above the fireplace where everyone could see it. Aida continued to struggle with feeling weak, with needing help. But Kuruk, recognizing a kindred spirit, began teaching her to track and hunt. She had a natural talent for it, moving through the brush like smoke. I watched her confidence return, piece by piece. And Diani, our youngest, was perhaps the most remarkable of all. Despite the head wound that still caused her pain, despite being only 15 years old, she appointed herself the keeper of our story. She would sit with each person, asking questions, writing down answers in careful script. She was documenting everything, ensuring that what had happened here would not be forgotten or erased. "Someday," she told me one evening as we sat on the porch, "I want to be doctor, like white doctors. But I also want to know Apache medicine. Maybe I can bring them together like Kaya does." "You would make an excellent doctor," I said honestly. "You think so, even though I am Apache? Even though I am girl?" "Especially because you are Apache and a girl. You know what it is like to suffer. That makes you better, not worse." She smiled, her young face radiant with hope and determination. In that moment, I saw the future she would build, the lives she would save, the bridges she would construct between worlds. On the day before the inquiry, Nasha asked to speak with me privately. We walked to the creek, now running fuller with recent rains. The valley was green, coming alive with spring growth. "Tomorrow I must tell my story in front of everyone," she said. "Tell them I am half white. Tell them Silas was my father. Tell them why I left tribe." "You do not have to tell them everything," I said. "Just enough to make the case." "No, I tell them everything, all of it. The beatings, the shame, the way Neol tried to love me but could not." She picked up a stone, turning it over in her hands. "Secret is like poison. Keep it inside, it kills you. Let it out, maybe it kills you faster, but at least you die free. Your father came back for you. He apologized. Is that not enough? It is beginning, but there are others in tribe who still see me as stain on Apache honor. If I do not speak truth now, they will always have power over me." She threw the stone into the creek, watching the ripples spread. "Besides, other girls need to see, need to know they can speak too, that silence is not strength, truth is strength." I understood. This inquiry was about more than just punishing guilty men. It was about 8 young women reclaiming their voices, their stories, their power. "Then I will stand with you," I promised. "All of us will." That night, none of us slept well. I lay awake listening to the sounds of the house settling, of 8 women breathing in fitful sleep. Tomorrow would change everything, one way or another. As dawn broke, I found Chief Neol standing on the porch. He had arrived sometime during the night, bringing with him nearly 100 Apache. They were camped in the valley, their fires dotting the landscape like stars fallen to earth. "Big day," he said simply. "Yes." "You are afraid?" I considered lying, then decided against it. "Terrified." Neol nodded approvingly. "Good. Fear keeps you sharp, makes you careful." He looked at me. "My daughters, they trust you. Kuruk trusts you. That is not easy thing. Apache do not trust white men. Too many lies, too many broken promises. I will not break my promises to them. I know. If I thought you would, you'd be dead already." He smiled slightly at the repetition of his earlier words. But today, other white men will try to break you, try to make you look like liar, like criminal. You must be stronger than they are, must show them Hayes men do not break. The weight of his words settled on my shoulders like a physical thing. This was not just about me anymore. It was about proving that not all white men were like Dalton, like the corrupt banker and sheriff. It was about showing that honor could exist between different peoples. As the sun rose higher, we prepared to leave for town. The 8 girls dressed in their best clothes, a mixture of Apache and white styles. Nasha wore a dress Silas had bought her, simple blue cotton, but she had embroidered it with traditional Apache symbols. She looked like what she was, a bridge between worlds. Kuruk wore war paint, making his allegiance clear. He was Apache, and he was not hiding it. Neil and his 100 warriors would follow behind us, a silent show of force. They would not enter the town unless needed, but their presence on the horizon would send a clear message. Harm these girls, and you answer to all Apache people. The ride to town took 2 hours. With each mile, I felt the tension building. The girls rode in silence, their faces set with determination. Only Diani showed her fear, her hands clutching the reins too tightly, her breathing quick and shallow. "We are with you," I told her quietly. "All of us. You are not alone." "I know," she whispered, "but I am still afraid." Being brave does not mean not being afraid. It means being afraid and doing it anyway. She nodded, trying to believe me. As we crested the final hill, the town of San Rafael spread below us. It looked different than it had just a week ago, more alive somehow. Word of the inquiry had spread, drawing people from all over the valley. The main street was packed with horses and wagons. I could see both white settlers and Apache mingling, an uneasy peace held together by curiosity and the promise of justice. The courthouse was a simple building, barely more than a large room, with a raised platform at one end. But today, it represented something greater. Today, it would either prove that justice could exist between peoples, or it would prove that power would always protect power. We dismounted in front of the courthouse. Immediately, I felt eyes on us. Hostile eyes. Curious eyes. Some sympathetic, most not. I heard whispers, comments that made my blood boil. Those the Apache girls? Heard they were running away from their people, no better than they should be. What's a white man doing with them? Something unnatural about it. Nasha's hand found mine, squeezing tightly. "Ignore them," she said, though I could hear the hurt in her voice. "We know truth. That is what matters." Tobias met us at the courthouse door. The old lawyer looked like he had aged another 10 years in the past week. His eyes were bloodshot, his hands trembling slightly. "They have been pressuring me to drop this," he said without preamble. "Threats, bribes. Someone even tried to burn my office last night, but the evidence is too strong. The judge has agreed to hear testimony." "Who is the judge?" I asked. "Territorial Judge Marcus Wheeler. He is fair but old. He will not want to rock the boat too much. We need to make our case overwhelming, undeniable." We entered the courthouse together. The room was packed to capacity and beyond. Every seat was taken, with people standing along the walls and crowding the doorways. I saw faces I recognized from around town. The merchant, the assayer, Sheriff Pyle, sitting in the front row with a smug expression. But I also saw Apache faces, families I had met at the ranch, warriors who had helped rebuild our fences. And there, in the back, standing tall and proud, was Chief Neil. Our eyes met across the crowded room, and he nodded once. Judge Wheeler was a small man, wizened with age but with sharp eyes that missed nothing. He banged his gavel, calling for order. "This is an inquiry into the events that took place at the Hayes Ranch 1 week ago," he began. "We will hear testimony from all relevant parties. There will be order in this courtroom or I will clear it. Is that understood?" A murmur of assent rippled through the crowd. "Mr. Cole, you may present your case." Tobias stood, gathering his papers. His hands shook, but his voice was steady. "Your Honor, I will present evidence that Colonel Ezra Dalton in conspiracy with several prominent citizens of this town, attempted to murder 8 Apache women as part of a scheme to steal valuable land. I will show that Mr. Jacob Hayes, far from being complicit in these crimes, saved these women's lives and has since protected them at great personal risk. That is quite an accusation, Mr. Cole. I hope you have evidence to support it. I do, Your Honor. Beginning with the confession of Ezra Dalton himself, written before his death. Tobias presented the papers Neal had given us. Judge Wheeler read them slowly, his expression darkening with each line. When he finished, he looked up at the crowded courtroom. These are serious allegations. Does anyone here wish to dispute the authenticity of this document? Silence. No one dared claim the confession was false, not with 100 Apache warriors visible through the courthouse windows. Very well. Mr. Cole, call your first witness. I call Nasha, daughter of Chief Neal. A gasp went through the crowd. It was unprecedented for an Apache woman to testify in a white court. But Judge Wheeler, to his credit, simply nodded. The witness may approach. Nasha stood and walked to the front of the room. She moved with her head high, her shoulders back, every inch a warrior, despite the dress she wore. When she reached the witness chair, she did not sit. Instead, she stood facing the crowd, facing her accusers, facing everyone who had ever made her feel less than human. State your name for the record, Tobias prompted gently. My name is Nasha. In white tongue, it means star. I am 24 years old. I am daughter of Chief Neal, and I am daughter of Silas Hayes. The courtroom exploded. Voices rose in shock, outrage, disbelief. Judge Wheeler banged his gavel repeatedly, calling for order. When silence finally returned, Nasha continued. Her voice never wavered. My mother, she was wife to Neal, but before that, she knew Silas. She loved him. I am proof of that love. In Apache tribe, this makes me outcast, makes me stain on family honor. She pulled back her shawl, showing the scars on her back. These scars, tribe give me when I am 12 years old, punishment for being half white, for reminding them that sometimes Apache women choose white men. She let the shawl fall back into place. 6 months ago, Chief Neal say, I must marry old warrior who beat his first 2 wives until they die. I say no. He say I must obey. I run. My sisters, they run with me. We come to Silas, who promised to protect us, teach us, help us be free. And what happened when you arrived at the Hayes Ranch? Tobias asked. Silas was dead. Then man came, Colonel Dalton. He looked like Jacob Hayes, but he was not Jacob. His eyes were cold, dead inside. He say he was Silas' friend. He say we could stay, work the land. We believe him. We were foolish. Her voice cracked slightly, the only sign of the emotion roiling beneath her calm exterior. 3 days before Jacob Hayes arrived, Dalton came back. With him, 2 other men. They tie us, drag us to barn. One by one they put ropes around our necks. Hang us from rafters. The courtroom was utterly silent now. Every eye was fixed on Nasha. Dalton, he tell us why. He say there is silver under land. He say Silas would not sell, so he killed Silas. Make it look like heart failure. Then he wait for nephew to come. He planned to hang us, then claim Jacob did it. Apache would kill Jacob, Dalton would take land. She looked directly at Sheriff Pyle. Sheriff Pyle, he knew. Dalton pay him $500 to arrest Jacob, not investigate truth. Pyle jumped to his feet. That is a lie. I did no such thing. Judge Wheeler fixed him with a hard stare. Sit down, Sheriff. You will have your turn to speak. But Nasha was not done. We hang there for maybe 2 days, maybe 3. Time becomes strange when you are dying. Some of us pass out. Some of us pray. All of us think we will die. Then Jacob Hayes came. He did not know us, did not know Silas's plan, but he saw 8 girls dying, and he cut us down. He saved us when no one else would, when my own people had given up searching, when white people did not care. She turned to look at me, and in her eyes I saw gratitude and pain and love all mixed together. Jacob Hayes is my cousin, Silas's blood, but more than that, he is man of honor. He stay when he could run, he fight when he could hide. He build family when he could walk away. That is truth. That is what happened. Tobias nodded. Thank you, Nasha. Your Honor, I have 7 more witnesses who will corroborate this testimony. One by one, the other 7 girls took the stand. Each told her story. Each described the hanging, the rescue, the truth of what had happened. Their voices shook, tears fell, but they did not hide. They did not apologize. They stood in the light and spoke truth to power. When little Diani testified, her voice so small but so fierce, I saw several people in the crowd wiping their eyes. Even Judge Wheeler looked moved. After the girls had finished, Tobias called me to testify. I described finding the ranch, reading Silas's journal, discovering the 8 bodies in the barn. I told them about cutting the ropes, about nearly being shot by Dalton, about everything that had happened since. "And why did you stay?" Tobias asked. "You could have left at any time. Let the Apache take the girls back to their tribe. Why stay?" I thought about my answer carefully. This was the moment that mattered, the moment that would determine whether any of this made a difference. "I stayed because of my father," I said finally. "Thomas Hayes. He died when I was 10 years old. I always thought he killed himself because he was weak, because the war had broken him, but Silas's journal showed me the truth. My father tried to stop a massacre at Canyon Creek. He was wounded for it, court-martialed for it, destroyed for it. He died not because he was weak, but because he was strong, because he chose to do what was right even when it cost him everything." I looked at the 8 girls sitting together in the front row. These women are the daughters and granddaughters of the people my father tried to save. Silas protected them because he promised my father he would, and I will protect them for the same reason. Because it is right. Because they deserve to live free. Because I will not let my father's sacrifice be in vain. The courtroom was silent when I finished. Judge Wheeler studied me for a long moment, then nodded. "Thank you, Mr. Hayes. You may step down." Tobias called several more witnesses. The Apache warriors who had been guarding the ranch testified to seeing Dalton's men prepare to burn us out. Kuruk described tracking his sisters and seeing a man who looked like me dragging them to the barn. Neol spoke about Dalton's confession, about the names he had named. Finally, as the sun began to set outside, Tobias rested his case. "Your Honor, the evidence is clear. Ezra Dalton, with the help of corrupt citizens of this town, attempted to commit murder for profit. Jacob Hayes and these 8 young women are victims, not criminals. I ask that you dismiss any charges against Mr. Hayes and instead investigate those Dalton named as his co-conspirators." Judge Wheeler leaned back in his chair, thinking. The silence stretched out, became unbearable. Finally he spoke. "I have presided over many cases in my 30 years on the bench. I have seen good men do terrible things, and terrible men claim they were good, but rarely have I seen a case where the truth was so clear and yet so ignored." He looked directly at Sheriff Pyle. "Sheriff, you are hereby removed from your position pending a full investigation. If Mr. Cole's allegations prove true, you will face criminal charges." Pyle's face turned red, then white. "You cannot do this. I have rights." "You have the right to remain silent. I suggest you exercise it." The judge turned to the banker and assayer, both of whom had been sitting in the crowd looking increasingly uncomfortable. "As for the rest of you named in Dalton's confession, you will report to the territorial marshal within 3 days. Failure to do so will result in warrants for your arrest." Then he looked at me and the 8 girls. "Mr. Hayes, Miss Nasha, and the rest of you young ladies, this court finds no evidence of wrongdoing on your part. Indeed, Mr. Hayes acted heroically in a situation that would have broken lesser men. You are free to return to your ranch, and I will personally ensure that no one interferes with your legal ownership of that land." A cheer erupted from the Apache section of the courtroom. Even some of the white settlers applauded, moved by the testimony they had heard. Judge Wheeler banged his gavel one final time. "This inquiry is concluded. Court is adjourned." As we left the courthouse, the sun was setting over the valley. The sky was painted in shades of orange and red, beautiful and terrible at once. Chief Neol was waiting outside with his warriors. He approached Nasha first, placing his hands on her shoulders. "You were brave today, daughter, braver than any warrior I have known. I am proud of you." Nasha threw her arms around him, and this time when she cried, they were tears of relief and joy. Neol then turned to me. "You keep your promise, Jacob Hayes. You protect my daughters. You give them voice. For that you will always be welcome among Apache people. You will always be family." He clasped my arm in the warrior's grip, and I returned it with equal strength. As we rode back to the ranch that night, surrounded by Apache warriors, and with the 8 girls laughing and talking for the first time in days, I felt something I had not felt in 3 years: peace. Not the absence of conflict, but the presence of purpose. The knowledge that I was exactly where I was meant to be, doing exactly what I was meant to do. The valley spread before us in the moonlight, silver and shadow. Somewhere beneath our feet lay a fortune in silver ore. But we would leave it there, buried and forgotten. The real treasure was riding beside me. 8 young women who had survived the worst humanity could offer and had emerged not broken, but stronger. 9 souls bound together by choice, not blood, by love, not obligation. A family forged in fire and tested by truth. As we crested the final hill and saw the ranch lights glowing in the distance, Diani rode up beside me. "Jacob," she said, "thank you for everything, for saving us, for staying, for giving us home." "You gave me a home too," I told her. "I was lost before I found you. Now I am found." She smiled, her young face radiant in the moonlight. Then we saved each other. "That is what family does, yes?" "Yes," I agreed. "That is exactly what family does." And as we rode down into the valley, toward the warm lights and the promise of home, I knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, we would face them together. 9 souls, 1 home, 1 family. It was enough. It would always be enough. 1 year had passed since the inquiry, 1 year since 8 young women had stood in a courtroom and reclaimed their voices, their stories, their power. The valley had changed in that time, and so had we. I stood on the porch of the main house, watching the sun rise over land that had been transformed. Where there had once been broken fences and dying grass, there were now fields of wheat turning gold in the morning light. Where there had been silence and decay, there was now the sound of voices, laughter, life. The ranch we had renamed 8 Souls had become something more than any of us had imagined. What started as 9 people trying to survive had grown into a community of nearly 80 souls. 30 Apache families had built homes on the edges of our land, creating a settlement that bridged 2 worlds. The schoolhouse Halona had started in the corner of the main room, had grown into its own building. Every morning, 40 children, both Apache and white, gathered to learn reading, writing, and arithmetic. Halona taught with a patience that amazed me. She had even begun writing a book, documenting Apache history and traditions so they would not be lost. Kaya's clinic had expanded as well. She now had 2 assistants, teaching them the blend of Apache and white medicine that had proven so effective. Just last week she had saved a child's life, a white settler's daughter, who had nearly died from infection. The father, who had been among those muttering against us at the inquiry, had wept and thanked her, his prejudice washed away by gratitude. Lomazi had overcome her nightmares, though they still came occasionally. She had become our chief of security, training both Apache warriors and ranch hands in defensive tactics. But more importantly, she had begun teaching young women, both Apache and white, how to defend themselves. She wanted no one to ever feel as helpless as she had felt hanging from that rope. Nita had found her voice through art. Her drawings now hung not just in our house, but in homes throughout the valley. She had captured the faces of our community, Apache and white side by side, showing the humanity in both. Her latest work was a mural on the side of the schoolhouse, depicting 8 women standing together under a sky full of stars. Shima had married Kuruk in a ceremony that combined Apache and white traditions. They now lived in a small house near the creek, and Shima was expecting their first child. She continued to be the heart of our community, organizing gatherings and celebrations that brought everyone together. Aida had become our best tracker and hunter, supplying meat for both our household and the wider community. But she had also discovered a talent for training horses. The horses she broke were sought after throughout the territory, known for their gentleness and intelligence. And Diani, our youngest, had not wavered in her determination to become a doctor. At 16, she was already assisting Kaya in complex procedures. A doctor from Santa Fe, impressed by her knowledge and dedication, had agreed to take her on as an apprentice starting next year. She would be the first Apache woman to train as a white doctor, another bridge between worlds. Nasha had found peace with her father, and he with her. Nyol visited often, and I had seen the way he looked at his daughter now. Not with shame or regret, but with pride. She had given birth 3 months ago to a daughter she named Emma, after my late wife. It was a gesture that had moved me to tears. As for Kuruk, he had become my brother in truth as well as name. We worked the land together, built fences together, sat in comfortable silence together. He no longer carried the weight of guilt that had bowed his shoulders. He had found redemption not through violence but through protection, through building rather than destroying. And me? I had changed most of all. The hollow man who had arrived at this ranch a year ago no longer existed. In his place was someone who woke each morning with purpose, who went to bed each night exhausted but content, who had learned that family was not something you were born into, but something you built one day at a time. The sound of footsteps on the porch boards pulled me from my thoughts. Nasha approached, her daughter Emma sleeping in a wrap on her back. "You are up early," she observed. "Could not sleep. Too much thinking." "About?" "About how far we have come. About what Silas and my father would think if they could see this." Nasha smiled. "They would think their promises were kept. Their sacrifices were not in vain." She looked out over the valley. "You know what day it is?" I had not forgotten. 1 year since the inquiry. 1 year since we stopped hiding, since we spoke truth. She touched my arm gently. "Since you gave us back our voices." "You always had your voices. I just helped people listen." "Same thing." She adjusted Emma on her back. "Tonight we celebrate, whole community. Neol is bringing 100 warriors just like last year, but this time not for war, for peace." Throughout the day, people began arriving. Apache families traveled from distant camps. White settlers came from neighboring ranches. Even some from the town made the journey, including Judge Wheeler and Tobias Cole. We roasted an entire steer and prepared enough food to feed an army. The 8 original girls worked together, cooking and laughing and teasing each other with the ease of sisters who had been through hell together and emerged stronger. As the sun began to set, Chief Neol arrived with his warriors. But they came without war paint, without weapons. They came dressed for celebration, carrying drums and food and gifts. Neol found me near the fire pit where the steer was roasting. We stood together in silence for a moment, 2 men from different worlds who had found common ground. "My daughters tell me you received an offer last week," Neol said finally. "Mining company. They offer you $100,000 for the land." $150,000, I corrected. "They raised the offer when I refused." "And you refuse again?" "Yes. The silver stays in the ground. That was always the plan." Neol nodded slowly. "Good. Silver brings death. This land brings life. Much better trade." As darkness fell, fires were lit throughout the valley. Apache drums began to beat, a steady rhythm that seemed to match the heartbeat of the earth itself. White settlers pulled out fiddles and guitars, and the 2 musical traditions began to weave together, creating something new and beautiful. I found myself standing with the 8 original girls, the ones who had started this all. They had changed so much in a year. They were stronger, more confident, more fully themselves, but the bonds between them remained unbreakable. Speech, Shima suddenly announced. Jacob must give speech. No, I do not think so, I protested. Yes, Nasha agreed. You must. Community needs to hear from you. Before I could argue further, I found myself being pushed toward the center of the gathering. Someone handed me a torch to hold high so everyone could see me. The music died down. Conversation stopped. 100 faces turned toward me, waiting. I took a deep breath. 1 year ago, I came to this valley expecting nothing. I had been drifting for 3 years, carrying grief like stones in my pockets. My wife and daughter were dead, and I thought my life was over. My voice carried in the quiet night air. Then I opened a barn door and found 8 young women hanging from the rafters. In that moment, I had a choice. I could cut them down and risk everything, or I could walk away and risk nothing. I chose to cut them down, and in saving them, they saved me. I looked at each of the girls in turn. Nasha taught me about courage, about facing the truth even when it hurts. Halona taught me about patience, about how teaching is an act of love. Kaya taught me about healing, about how the deepest wounds are the ones we cannot see. Lomasi taught me about strength, about how surviving trauma is its own kind of bravery. I continued, naming each one. Nita taught me that beauty can exist even in pain, that art can speak when words fail. Shima taught me about joy, about how laughter can be an act of defiance against darkness. Aida taught me about determination, about never giving up even when others doubt you. And Dayani taught me about hope, about how even the youngest among us can be wise beyond their years. I turned to address the wider crowd. This valley has seen too much death, too much hate, too much fear. But it has also seen something else. It has seen 8 young women refuse to be broken. It has seen 2 peoples learn to live together instead of apart. It has seen that redemption is possible, that change is possible, that building something new from the ashes of the old is possible. I thought about my father, about Silas, about all the people who had fought and died trying to make things better. My father tried to stop a massacre and was destroyed for it. My uncle protected these women and died for it. But their sacrifices were not in vain. Because we are here, we are alive. We are proof that their vision of a better world was not foolish or naive. It was just ahead of its time. I raised the torch higher. So tonight, we celebrate. Not just 1 year since the inquiry, but 1 year of proving that different peoples can live together. 1 year of proving that family is about who you choose to stand with, not who you are born to. 1 year of proving that love is stronger than hate, hope is stronger than fear, and truth is stronger than lies. I looked at the 8 women who had changed my life so completely. 8 souls saved from death, 1 ranch built on love, 1 family forged in fire, and 1 community that shows the world what is possible when we choose courage over comfort. I lowered the torch. That is worth celebrating. Thank you for being part of this journey. Thank you for believing that we could build something better. And thank you for proving every single day that we were right to believe. For a moment there was silence. Then applause erupted, not just from the Apache, but from everyone. The music started again, louder now, more joyful. People began to dance, white and Apache together, moving to the blended rhythms of 2 cultures becoming one. Nasha appeared at my side, Emma still sleeping peacefully on her back, despite the noise. Good speech, she said, very moving. I meant every word. I know. That is why it was good. She looked at me seriously. Jacob, I need to tell you something. Something I should have told you before. What is it? When Silas was dying, he gave me a message for you. But he said not to give it until you were ready, until you understood what this place could be. She reached into her dress and pulled out a sealed envelope. I think you are ready now. I took the envelope with trembling hands. It was addressed simply, Jacob. I broke the seal and unfolded the letter inside. The handwriting was Silas's, but shakier than in his journal entries. This had been written when death was close. Jacob, if you are reading this, then you stayed. You saved the girls. You kept the promise your father made me make. I knew you would. Blood tells. The Hayes men may be broken, but we do not stay broken. We find a way to heal, to build, to protect. Your father tried to save people at Canyon Creek and failed, but through you, he succeeded. Through you, those 8 girls live. Through you, a new world is being built. I am proud to call you nephew. I am proud to know my brother's son became the man he always hoped he would be. The land is yours now. The girls are your family now. Protect them, love them, give them the future I could only dream of. And know that your father and I are watching from wherever dead men go when they have kept their promises. We are proud, Jacob, so very proud. Your loving Uncle Silas. Tears streamed down my face. I did not try to hide them. Nasha put her arm around my shoulders, the sleeping baby between us, a symbol of new life, new hope. He was right, she said softly. About you, about us, about all of this. Around us, the celebration continued. I saw Kuruk dancing with Shima, his hands protective on her swollen belly. I saw Halona teaching a group of white children an Apache song. I saw Kaya laughing with the doctor from town, sharing medical knowledge over cups of coffee. I saw Lomasi teaching young women defensive stances, while their fathers and brothers watched with pride instead of scorn. I saw Nita sketching the scene, capturing this moment for future generations. I saw Aida racing horses with Apache warriors, her laughter ringing clear. I saw Diani deep in conversation with Judge Wheeler, discussing law and justice and how to make the system work for everyone, not just the powerful. I saw Chief Neal surrounded by his warriors and white settlers alike, all of them listening to his stories, all of them according him the respect he deserved. And I saw what we had built, not just a ranch, not just a community, but proof that another way was possible. That people from different worlds could live together not just in tolerance, but in genuine love and respect. As the night deepened, as the fires burned down to glowing embers, people began to disperse to their homes. The Apache to their camps, the settlers to their ranches. But they would all return. They always did. Because this place had become more than just 8 Souls Ranch. It had become a symbol of what could be. I found myself alone on the porch again, watching the last of the fires die. Tomorrow, work would begin again. Fences to mend, crops to tend, always something that needed doing. But tonight, I could simply be, simply exist in this moment of peace we had fought so hard to create. The peace of that moment was interrupted by the sound of a single horse approaching. I tensed instinctively, old habits dying hard, but the rider moved slowly, deliberately, making no attempt at stealth. He emerged from the darkness into the dying firelight. A man perhaps 30 years old, dressed in the fine clothes of an Eastern businessman. His features were sharp, refined, and disturbingly familiar. When he dismounted and removed his hat, I saw the resemblance clearly. Ezra Dalton's face, but younger, softer somehow. "Mr. Hayes?" His voice carried none of Ezra's cold cruelty. "My name is Vincent Morrison. I was Ezra Dalton's half-brother. We shared a father but little else." My hand moved toward my gun, but he raised both hands quickly, showing they were empty. "I am not here for revenge or trouble. I came to make amends for what my brother did." He reached slowly into his coat and withdrew a thick envelope. "May I approach?" I nodded, watching him carefully as he climbed the porch steps. Up close, I could see the differences more clearly. Where Ezra's eyes had been dead and cold, Vincent's held genuine remorse. "I spent the last 10 years trying to stop Ezra," Vincent said quietly. "He destroyed our family's name with his greed and cruelty. I tried to have him committed. I tried to cut off his funds. I failed at every turn. When I heard what he did here, what he tried to do to those women, I was not surprised, only ashamed that I could not stop him sooner." He handed me the envelope. Inside were legal documents, deeds, bank statements. This had everything Ezra owned: the mining company, the equipment, the claims he purchased throughout the territory. "I am signing it all over to you and the 8 women. Do with it what you will. Sell it. Burn it. I do not care. I only want to ensure my brother's legacy is erased." "Why give it to us?" I asked, studying the documents. The monetary value was staggering, hundreds of thousands of dollars. "Because you deserve it. Because those women deserve it. And because there is something else you need to know." Vincent's expression darkened. Ezra was not working alone. Other mining interests financed his schemes. They know about the silver under your land. When they learn he failed, they will send others, better funded, better organized. He pointed to the mining company deed. That company has contracts with the territorial government, legal mining claims throughout Arizona. If you own it, you control those claims. You can block other companies from operating in this valley entirely. It is the only way to truly protect what you have built here. I looked at the papers, then back at Vincent. "You could have kept this, used it yourself. I have enough blood money from my father. I do not need more." He put his hat back on, preparing to leave. "Use it wisely, Mr. Hayes. Build something better than my family ever could. That would be the greatest revenge against my brother's memory." He mounted his horse and rode into the night, leaving me with an envelope that would change everything. The next morning I gathered all 8 women and explained Vincent's offer. We debated for hours. Helona argued we should sell everything and use the money for schools. Kaya wanted to fund medical clinics. Lamasi insisted we use it to arm ourselves against future threats. It was Nesha who cut through the argument with characteristic clarity. "We sell the mining company, but keep the claims. Use the money to buy all surrounding land, every ranch, every plot that touches our borders. Make this valley so big, so protected, that no one can ever threaten it again. The silver stays buried, but the land becomes ours completely." The vote was unanimous. Within 6 months, we had purchased 12,000 acres surrounding the original ranch. 8 Souls became not just a ranch, but a protected territory, a haven for anyone seeking the peace we had built. And the silver remained where it belonged, buried and forgotten beneath land that was finally, truly safe. "Jacob?" I turned to find Diane standing there. She had grown so much in the past year, no longer a frightened 15-year-old, but a confident young woman with dreams as big as the sky. "Yes?" "I wanted to say thank you for everything, for saving us, for staying, for believing in us." She paused. "Next year, when I go to Santa Fe to study, I will miss this place, miss you, but I will make you proud. I will become a doctor. I will come back and help people. I will show them that Apache women can be anything." "You already make me proud," I said honestly, "every single day." She hugged me fiercely, then ran back to join her sisters. I watched her go, this girl who would change the world in her own way, and I smiled. The sound of horses approaching made me tense for just a moment, old instincts dying hard. But it was only a lone rider, moving slowly in the moonlight. As the rider drew closer, I recognized Tobias Cole. The old lawyer dismounted stiffly and climbed the porch steps. "Could not sleep," he said by way of greeting. "Too much on my mind. Seems to be going around." We sat together in the darkness, 2 men who had become friends through shared struggle. "Got a letter from the territorial governor today," Tobias said after a while. "He wants to visit. Says he heard about what we are building here. Wants to see if it can be replicated elsewhere." "What did you tell him?" "Told him to come see for himself, that words cannot capture what you have all built here." He looked at me. "You know what this means, don't you? If the governor endorses what we are doing, if he makes it a model for other communities, it could change everything, could change the whole territory." The weight of that possibility settled over me. We had started this just trying to survive, to protect 8 young women from men who wanted to hurt them. But it had become so much more. "Do you think it would work elsewhere?" I asked. "Or is this place special somehow?" "I think any place can be special if the right people are willing to work for it. You have something rare here, Jacob. A community built not on profit or power, but on genuine care for each other. That is worth more than all the silver in the ground." We sat in silence for a while longer. Then Tobias stood to leave. "One more thing," he said. Sheriff Pyle and the others named in Dalton's confession. Their trial starts next month. The prosecutor wants you and the girls to testify. Are you willing? Yes. We will see this through to the end. We owe that much to Silas and to my father. Tobias nodded and rode off into the night. I remained on the porch thinking about the future, about Diani becoming a doctor, about Halona's book preserving Apache culture, about Kaya's clinic expanding, about all the children growing up in this valley who would never know a world where Apache and white could not live together. The door behind me opened, and all 8 women emerged. They had clearly been waiting inside, letting me have my moment of solitude, but not willing to let me face the night alone. "Cannot sleep?" Nasha asked, echoing her question from that morning. "Too much to think about," I repeated my earlier answer. "Then think with us," Shima said, settling onto the porch. The others followed, arranging themselves around me like petals around a flower. We sat together in the darkness, 9 souls who had found each other through tragedy and built something beautiful through choice. We did not need to speak. The silence between us was comfortable, filled with shared understanding and love. As I looked at these 8 women, I thought about the journey that had brought us here. The rope burns around their necks had faded to thin white lines, but the memory of that day remained sharp. Yet they had not let that trauma define them. They had survived. They had thrived. They had shown the world that strength comes not from never falling, but from rising every time you do. "What are you thinking?" Kaya asked softly. "I am thinking about how different my life would be if I had walked away from that barn. If I had seen you hanging there and decided it was not my problem." "But you did not," Lomasi said firmly. "You stayed. You fought. That is what matters." "And now we are family," Aida added. "Forever." "Forever," Diani agreed, her young voice full of certainty. "Forever." The word hung in the air between us, a promise and a hope and a prayer all at once. The eastern sky was beginning to lighten, the first hints of dawn painting the horizon in shades of pink and gold. Another day was beginning in the Valley of 8 Souls. A day of work and laughter and struggle and growth. A day of building something that would last long after we were all gone. A day of proving that love was stronger than hate, that hope could triumph over despair, that redemption was possible for all who sought it. I stood slowly, my bones creaking. 35 years old and already feeling ancient. But it was a good ache, the ache that came from honest work and honest living. "Come on," I said to the 8 women who had become my family. "Let us go greet the sun. Together." We walked out into the valley as light spilled across the land, illuminating the fields we had planted, the homes we had built, the community we had forged. 8 souls and 1 white man standing together as the world awakened around us. Behind us, the ranch house stood solid and strong, no longer the decaying ruin I had found a year ago. Smoke rose from its chimneys, promising warmth and food and comfort. The barn where I had cut down 8 hanging bodies had been rebuilt, transformed from a place of death to a place of life. And beneath our feet, the silver stayed buried, forgotten. Because we had learned what truly mattered was not what lay under the earth, but what we built upon it. As the sun rose fully, bathing the valley in golden light, I felt Emma stir on Nasha's back. The baby woke and looked at me with eyes that held all the innocence and hope of new life. She smiled, and in that smile I saw the future, a future where children grew up never knowing the hate that had nearly destroyed their parents, a future where Apache and white were not enemies, but neighbors, friends, family, a future worth fighting for, worth building, worth believing in. "What do you see?" Nasha asked, following my gaze to the horizon. "I see home," I said simply. "I see family. I see everything that matters." And it was true. After 3 years of wandering, of grief, of carrying my father's guilt and my own failures like stones, I had finally found what I had been searching for. Not forgiveness, though that had come, not redemption, though I had found that too, but something simpler and more profound. Belonging. I belonged here with these 8 remarkable women and the community we had built. I belonged to this land and to this family in a way I had never belonged anywhere before. The valley held 8 souls, Silas had written, but he had been wrong. The valley held 9 souls now, bound together by choice and by love, and by the unbreakable promise to protect each other no matter what came. 9 souls, 1 home, 1 family. It was enough. It would always be enough. And as we stood together watching the sun rise over our valley, I knew with absolute certainty that we had done more than just survive. We had thrived. We had built a legacy that would outlast us all. 8 daughters of the desert and 1 wandering son had found each other in darkness and created light. That was the true treasure of the valley. Not silver buried in the earth, but love growing between souls. And it was the richest treasure of all, the end.